Superman is known for keeping his temper in check even in difficult situations, always choosing mercy over cruelty. However, the sudden emergence of a villain pushed the Man of Steel into a state of blind and brutal rage. I'm Andrew, the Geek Master, and in today's video, we're going to break down everything that happened in Superman Action Comics issue number 1082. To not miss stories like this one, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and let's get started. The story begins by showing a perfect day in Metrópolis. People are going about their morning, taking strolls, heading to work, getting haircuts, and doing other everyday activities. But the truth is, nothing is ever truly perfect. Suddenly, a massive earthquake shakes the city, sending everyone into a state of total panic. Police Chief Neo Keikoa immediately realizes that this isn't a natural disaster and rushes toward the source of the tremor. He barely has time to react before a giant boulder hurtles toward his car, an impact that would have certainly been fatal. But just in time, Superman appears, stopping the massive rock from crushing the police force. And that's when we see that something is off. When the police chief tries to explain what's happening, Superman just stares at him, his eyes burning red with rage. Clark doesn't say a word, he simply takes off at super speed, leaving the officers visibly unsettled. Next, we see Superman doing his best to rescue civilians, pulling them from the falling debris caused by the earthquake. His eyes remain red with anger the entire time, especially when he sees that someone has died in the wreckage. This sight pushes him into an even deeper fury, and he immediately heads toward the epicenter of the destruction, where he finds Paul Booker, better known as Major Disaster. Booker is a supposed former villain who had abandoned his life of crime thanks to Superman's influence. When the two come face to face, it's clear that Superman is ready for a fight. And in the furious state he's in, something truly terrible could have happened. But to Superman's surprise, the villain simply drops to his knees and surrenders, leaving Clark completely confused about what's going on. Sometime later, it's revealed that Major Disaster is being held at Stryker's Island Penitentiary awaiting trial. Through his lawyer, he requests a visit from Clark Kent so he can make a statement about what happened. When they meet, Paul tells Clark that the pressure of trying to do good became too much for him, and he planned to rob a bank because he needed quick money. Although the death was an accident, he was overwhelmed by guilt and intends to plead guilty. Clark makes a point of reminding him that Superman believed he could be a good person, and Paul looks genuinely upset for disappointing him. At the same time, it's clear just how disappointed Clark is as well. Still, Paul insists that Clark should publish the truth about his failure. He just wants to be locked up and pay for his crimes. Later at home, Clark talks to Lois about what happened and admits that, in that moment, he seriously wanted to hurt Major Disaster. This was only the second time in his entire life that he had ever felt such an intense urge to use his heat vision. Lois reminds him that when he convinced Major Disaster to turn his life around, the villain was at his lowest point. Helping him change was a huge moment that restored Superman's faith in humanity. She tells Clark he needs to focus on the victories instead of the losses, reminding him that he has also convinced other supervillains to give up their criminal ways. However, Clark points out that one of them, Atomic Skull, recently went back to being a villain as well. Clark says something feels off. Two former villains returning to crime after working so hard to change? It doesn't seem like a coincidence. Lois can see Clark's pain. Booker betrayed his trust. But if Clark truly believes there's more to this, then he needs to keep investigating. The next day, Clark attends a press conference held by Chief Keikoa about the attack involving Major Disaster. Keikoa reveals that Booker had recently become addicted to online gambling and was deeply in debt, which is likely why he tried to rob the bank. He needed money fast. He also tells Clark off the record that he honestly thought Superman was going to kill the villain. Clark asks how Booker, who had been working with a parole officer and was surrounded by superheroes, could have relapsed. But Kekoa responds that most people who have been in prison struggle to readjust to normal life. Next, Clark meets with Major Disaster's former partners, the mighty Bruce and Scorch. Both tell him basically the same thing Kekoa did. Moving forward is a constant battle, especially for a metahuman, and Booker simply didn't have what it takes. With no answers but still hopeful, Clark walks back home while talking to Lois on the phone. Suddenly, he's approached by a mugger armed with a collapsible baton. Clark mutters under his breath that what this guy's about to do is pretty stupid. Just as the hero is about to use his X-ray vision to figure out who his attacker is, surprisingly, the mugger's strike actually cuts through Superman's skin. Yes, Superman starts to bleed, and we see the mugger strike him several times. The weapon emits a purple energy, and Superman is left lying on the ground, bleeding, as the mugger begins to flee. Superman has always been a symbol of hope, but something is clearly wrong. First, his uncontrollable rage, then a simple mugger is able to injure him. Who's behind this? What's really happening to the Man of Steel? If you want to know what happens next, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on the next videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.